Welcome back, everyone. This is DerekJ Speaks, and today we are talking about WWE SmackDown from December 30th, 2022, live in Tampa, Florida, the final SmackDown of 2022, featuring a huge main event tag team match with the team of the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns and the honorary Uce Sami Zayn taking on Kevin Owens and John Cena, who is keeping his streak alive of wrestling at least one match every single year for the last 20 years and making his first in-ring appearance match-wise televised since SummerSlam last year. Ironically, also against Roman Reigns. So this was the big match. This was announced a few weeks ago on SmackDown, and this is what the show was built around. And as a match, it was very, very basic. It was as basic as it could be. Kevin Owens was the babyface in peril for majority of the match. Roman and Sami were doing everything they could to prevent Cena from getting involved in the match until finally Kevin Owens outlasted the heels. He sidestepped Roman, who rammed himself shoulder first into the post, and then Owens made the hot tag to Cena, and then Sami Zayn came in, and Cena just started hitting the 5 moves of doom. The shoulder checks, the big slam and all that. He tagged in Kevin Owens, who came in, and they both got Roman and Sami down, and they hit a double 5-knuckle shuffle onto the heels. Cena picked up Roman, hit him with the attitude adjustment, got him out of the ring, and then Owens, who was the legal man, hit a stunner on Sami Zayn and got the 1-2-3 for his team. So the good guys win in the main event on the final SmackDown of the year. And cool. I mean, that was the outcome that I expected. I expected this match to be kind of short. I didn't think it was going to be this big, long, epic tag team match. So the match was as standard as it got. It was basically a house show match almost. Cena, he did a few things. He did his greatest hits, and he got in some offense. But the one to win the match was Kevin Owens. He won by pinning Sami Zayn, which I figured. It would have been completely ridiculous if Roman Reigns suffered his first pinfall loss since December of 2019 in a even if this was a big main event, in a random tag team match on TV. That would have been ridiculous. So I had a feeling at least, that Sami was going to eat a stunner or a power bomb or something like that, and he was going to suffer the loss at the hands of Kevin Owens. And so that's what we got here. The match itself was not the big story here. The big story is what is going to come from this. So John Cena, he's here. Will we see him again at WrestleMania? It's possible. There was already some news leaking and going around online that they may have John Cena penciled in for a match against Logan Paul at WrestleMania. I know Logan Paul mentioned that on his podcast a few weeks ago, or maybe even more than a few weeks ago. And recently, he mentioned it. So we might be setting up for that match. So this might not be the last we see of John Cena. For Kevin Owens, he once again beats a member of the Bloodline, and it could be setting him up to be the challenger for the championship against Roman at the Royal Rumble. They could have their third Rumble match to date. Their previous 2 encounters were excellent. In fact, their most previous one, that was the one back in 2021. That was the last man standing match, very early into the run of the Tribal Chief era for Roman Reigns. So I know it's going back to that well again, but there's been some distance, and it makes sense going along with the Sami Zayn story right now. So hopefully that's the direction they go in. But even bigger than all that is the story with Sami Zayn himself. And it wasn't even necessarily this specific match. The story with him was told earlier in the night in a backstage segment with him and Paul Heyman. They were standing outside the Bloodline locker room, and Paul Heyman mentioned how the optics might be a little skewed and might be a little bad when looking at a scenario where you have Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns out there. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the undisputed champion, the man who's been a champion on this show for over 800 days. He's standing out there, and yet the fans, all they want to do is cheer for Sami Zayn and give Sami all of their love and attention. And Paul was insinuating that that might not be perceived all that well, and saying that Roman might be trying to stay 3 steps ahead at all times. And so later on the night, they showed the entire Bloodline backstage, and Sami, very forward, he brings it up in a very kind of nonchalant type of way. He just flippantly mentions to Roman, like, do you have any issue with me out there getting these reactions while you're out there? Like, is that an issue at all? And Roman took a moment to ponder this. He was very stoic and silent. And the rest of the Bloodline, the Usos and Solo Sikoa and even Heyman, you could see them in the background. They were kind of a little apprehensive. They didn't know how he was going to react. But then Roman came out and was like, I have no issue with that. It's fine. And just putting more praise onto Sami Zayn. But none of this stuff is said on accident. None of it is random. But this is a new little tidbit to add into the story, with now there being an idea that maybe Sami Zayn is getting popular, and perhaps a little too popular for the tribal chief's liking. Now they're going out there and Sami's getting these huge reactions, and maybe that's getting under the skin of Roman Reigns, who doesn't like the idea that he's being upstaged and he's being outdone and outshined and all that. So that could be an interesting story to follow if they continue down that path. But everything we've seen up to this point, and now even this little added element to the story, it's all leading to the inevitable conclusion of Sami Zayn and the Bloodline and him being excommunicated, so to speak. We know that moment is coming. We just don't know when. Will it be on TV? Will it be next week? Especially now after Sami lost the match here. Could it be next week? Could he have a few more weeks? Could it be at the Rumble? Could it be after the Rumble, some point, sometime like that? We don't know. But we do know that it is coming. And I think the stuff they did on the show, backstage-wise, really added to that. And then the match itself was a decent match. But Sami being the one to take the fall adds not only to Kevin Owens earning another shot at the championship, but it also further adds fuel to this Sami Zayn Bloodline story, which we know is approaching its climax. As the year ends, we're entering a Royal Rumble season, we're entering WrestleMania season, so you know this story is going to start to really wind down and get to its big conclusion, big finale. And all this little stuff is really building up to that. So we'll see how this all plays itself out in the new year as we get closer to the Rumble. And I'm sure it'll be dark days ahead for Sami Zayn later on down the line. But on this night, it was a pretty crummy night for him, suffering the loss to Kevin Owens and John Cena, who sent the crowd home happy in the main event. But this was not the only big match hyped up for this show. We also had a SmackDown Women's Championship match between Ronda Rousey and Raquel Rodriguez, the injured left arm of Raquel Rodriguez. And she was selling the arm throughout the entire match, but she was very valiant. She fought Ronda off. She even had a visual pin, or had the win stolen from her, because she had her down, she had the match won, but behind the referee's back, Shayna Baszler on the outside placed Ronda's foot on the bottom rope. But the finish saw both women in the turnbuckle. Raquel was on the middle turnbuckle, and she had Ronda up on her shoulders. But Ronda, while up there, was grabbing at Raquel's injured arm, and she put her in the arm bar. It was a very cool visual, and it ended with both women crashing down to the mat, and with the force of that fall, plus Ronda never broke the submission hold on Raquel's arm, Raquel was left with no choice but to feverishly tap out. So the match is over. Ronda's still champion. Raquel disappears like she's nothing, which she wasn't. We talk about optics like Paul Heyman was talking about earlier. The optics here is that Raquel, you came, you saw, you failed, goodbye. Make room for the bigger star. And thy name is Charlotte Flair, who made her return on this show. She's been gone for several months. The last time we saw her was in that I Quit match against Ronda Rousey back in the spring. So she's been gone for a very long time. She made a return on this show. She got in the ring and she told Ronda, I'm not waiting to challenge you for a later date. I want to challenge you right here, right now. And Shayna's in the ring. She's pleading with Ronda not to take up the challenge, walk away, just leave. For a second there, I thought she was going to do it. But of course, she did not. She accepted the challenge. Her ego is so inflated that she accepted the challenge anyway. And Charlotte, right at the gate, hit her with a big boot and went for a cover, but it was only good for a 2 count. She also big booted Shayna off the apron, so she went down to the floor. So she was a non-factor in the match. She goes to hit a spear on Ronda, but Ronda counters it and tries to lock in the armbar. But Charlotte counters that and gets the roll-up on Ronda and wins. And now Charlotte Flair is the new SmackDown Women's Champion. 2022 ends the same exact way that it started, and that is with Charlotte Flair as your reigning SmackDown Women's Champion, because some things never change. It does not matter who is in charge, who's running the show, who's running creative. It doesn't matter. The same team running creative at the beginning of the year is not the exact same team running it at the end of this year. But regardless of that, the focus is still on making sure Charlotte Flair is in the championship scene as often as possible. And that's what we got here. Charlotte Flair came back night 1, very first night. She wins back the championship because they are incapable of doing anything else with this woman that does not involve her chasing or winning any championship. So Charlotte's the champion again, and okay. I mean, it is what it is. It's Charlotte is champion, LOL. Charlotte wins, LOL. All that kind of stuff. It rings true. And I like Charlotte. I'm not a Charlotte hater or anything like that. I like her fine. Her moonsaults in the ring aren't all that great, but otherwise, she's a very talented individual. She has a lot of talent. She has a lot of charisma. All that good stuff. She's fine. I have no issue with her. It's just this notion that every time she is on screen, more often than not, she is doing something that involves the championship, and it is not necessary every single time. And now here she's a champion again. Will she be champion for a very long time? I don't think so. I think there is still some fuel to the fire that the big women's match for WrestleMania this year will involve Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. I think that is still the direction that we are going to see. I think that is the direction for both women. Whether the interest is still there like it was in 2019, I don't know. I don't think so. But I do believe we are still gearing up for that match. So that means this may be a very short title run for Charlotte. I believe this win was nothing more than getting a nice big pop from the crowd, having a nice little twist special moment on the last show of the year, one of the biggest episodes of SmackDown all year, having a nice little special moment. And above all of that, I think the reason for this is just to add yet another championship reign for Charlotte. Michael Cole announced that she is now a 14-time champion. She is inching ever so closely to tying and then breaking Ric Flair's championship record. It's not even a question of is she going to tie it. She's definitely going to tie it. Hell, she might even do that this year. The question is how long is it going to take her to break Ric Flair's title run and be a 17-time champion, and then 18 and 20 and all that stuff. For the longest time, I used to say back in the day that John Cena would retire as a 20-time world champion. I think there is a better chance that Charlotte will be a 20-time world champion than John Cena will. And I think we will see that within the next 2 years. Maybe even shorter than that. We'll see. But yeah, I don't expect Charlotte to hold on to the championship for that long. I think this was just for the moment tonight. And as a moment, the fans loved it. So, there you go. To open the show, we had a segment with Bray Wyatt. He came out and cut a promo. He was interrupted by LA Knight, who challenged Bray to a match at the Royal Rumble. And later on in the night, Michael Cole confirmed it and also announced that this match will have a stipulation, a pitch black match, which he later called a Mountain Dew pitch black match, because in the little graphic they showed the little Mountain Dew logo next to the match stipulation. So I don't know what the hell Mountain Dew has to do with it. Is this match sponsored by Mountain Dew? I assume so. So whatever. I don't know what a pitch black match is. I don't know if the match will literally take place in the dark or if it's just some kind of fancy no disqualification match. I don't know. Not going to know until the Rumble itself. But that was not the only noteworthy thing that happened on this show involving Bray Wyatt, because during that segment with Bray and LA Knight, after the challenge was laid out, both men were interrupted by Uncle Howdy, who we saw appear in the flesh a few weeks ago on SmackDown. He came out, and this time, he made his way all the way to the ring, where he teased standing side by side with Bray, only to turn on him and hit Bray with the Sister Abigail and leave him laying in the ring. So now, we have no idea what's going on, which is usually the case with these Bray Wyatt segments. But now we don't know what is the deal with Uncle Howdy, where is his allegiance lie, what's going on here, we don't know. But there is some development in this story. We have gotten barely any development in the story with Bray Wyatt and his multiple personalities and his demons and all this stuff that he's been fighting for the past several months since he returned. There has been no upward mobility of this story. And now, over these last few weeks, we've seen a little bit more development. And now, we have a destination, at least as far as the Bray Wyatt LA Knight stuff is concerned. We have a match, we have a stipulation, we have a destination, we have a date for it. It's at the Rumble. It's a pitch black match. It's LA Knight versus Bray Wyatt. Unless he does something on SmackDown, this is going to be Bray Wyatt's first singles match on TV since he returned. So we have that. Uncle Howdy, he is in the flesh. He is a figure. He's a physical being on the show. And he laid out Bray Wyatt. That is another twist. That's another question to be asked that needs to be answered. But there is some developments with this story, which is more than I could say as of a few weeks ago. So at least there's that. And then elsewhere on the show, we got a tease of a Hit Row heel turn, or at least Top Dollar turning heel. He was backstage surrounded by a bunch of random baby faces like the New Day and Ricochet and all these people. They were clowning on him for his botched attempt at a dive all those weeks ago. And when Ricochet landed the last big joke on him, he shoved him, and the two were about to brawl until it got broken up. And we're going to get a match between the two of them on SmackDown next week. And it's going to be a Rumble match qualifier. Ricochet versus Top Dollar. Hopefully, Ricochet is the one doing all the dives and not Top Dollar. But it looks like we're gearing up for a heel turn, which is probably for the best, because right now Hit Row has just not been lighting the world on fire. So maybe turning them heel will do something better. Also, building up to next week, we had a match with Sheamus and Solo Sikoa on this show. Sikoa got the win after a bunch of interference with the Usos and the Brawling Brutes on the outside. Then after the match, the Bloodline attacked and they were going to lay out Sheamus and take him out. But then Drew McIntyre made his return to TV. He got in the ring, he cleared house, and he gave Sheamus and the Brutes the assist. And they announced that next week we are getting Sheamus and Drew McIntyre challenging the Usos for the undisputed tag team titles. We were supposed to get this match several weeks ago on SmackDown, but Drew, due to an illness or injury of some kind, had to back out of the match. Now we're going to get it on the first SmackDown of the year. And also next week, we're getting an Intercontinental Championship match with Gunther and Braun Strowman. They had a segment on this show as well. It started out with Braun getting the better of Imperium, but then the 3-on-1 advantage overwhelmed him. Gunther had him in this long arm lock, so that might handicap Braun a little bit heading into next week. Ricochet came out with a steel chair and made the save, but now we know we are getting an Intercontinental Championship match with Braun and Gunther next week. So that's something to look forward to as well. And that was the show. That was all of the big stuff that happened on this show. And a lot of these stories will obviously continue into the new year, and we'll see how they develop. We'll see how things shape up for this Rumble card and as we get closer to WrestleMania. And that's it for me. That's my last video of the year. Thank you all for listening. Hope you liked what you heard and what you saw. And if you would be so kind, leave a comment down below, your thoughts on the show and your thoughts heading into the new year. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and also follow me on Twitter at DerekJ Speaks, and follow along on the channel these next few weeks because I will be pumping out more brand new content and more brand new reviews into the new year, including a review of Wrestle Kingdom 17 and the first episode of AEW Dynamite for the 2023 year, the new and improved Dynamite. We'll see how that looks. So until then, happy holidays to all of you, happy new year, and love you all. Thank you, and goodbye.